Thank you for joining us for today's live streaming event, live from Northport, Florida. I have a very special guest in the house, past Mayor Phil Stokes, but current Commissioner Mr. Phil Stokes. How you doing there, Phil?
I'm great, John. Yourself?
I'm doing good. So I don't know if you noticed the snag of the picture I put up today for the podcast, but it was of you and Val, and I believe you were dressed in some Christmas stuff. And
No, I missed it.
yeah, so I made it look good because Val was in it. So
There
uh,
you go.
everybody out there is going to give a thumbs up at this point because they know. The best part of Phil is Val.
That's
Um,
it.
there you go. So
It's my better half.
it's your better half. There you go, brother. So we've got an interesting situation playing out at City Hall with the end of the year.
Yep.
What do the end of the year challenges bring commission?
Well, really for us, it's a little bit of a break in the action for the couple of weeks. So a lot of opportunity to get with our, everybody's celebrating the holidays, so we get to get together with all of our partners out there, from the chamber to the other nonprofits, the seniors. It's a good time of year. I think an optimistic time of the year, and we'll start to lay the groundwork to get ready for strategic planning coming in January. And really, I think this is going to be a big budget year. I think we'll see ourselves getting into the budget process a lot earlier than in previous years, just because there are a lot of challenges we're facing. So it's, I think this time of year is a nice time of year. It's challenging. A lot of people going on vacation, going to visit people. So it's, ready to turn the page on a new one.
Listen, I can say this out loud, and I'm sure that I have lots of people. 2025 is almost history to me, and I did that in June. So I'm ready to start the new year. I've already been pretending it in my head. So I can't wait for New Year's Eve. The Buckeyes play, so hopefully we'll get a victory there. But I need to I need to get busy in the new year. So I'm super excited about what's happening within the city, because we've got a lot that is going to happen in January. That's going to springboard us into a 2026. How important is it to start the year out moving forward? Just putting the grind out there.
Well, there's a lot of shovels in the ground. You look at prices chugging ahead. We're pushing as quickly as we can to get it done right and get it done in a as timely a fashion as possible. Anybody who's coming in and off of Route 75 at Sumter is seeing all the land cleared for the hospital, the Sarasota Memorial Hospital. We've got projects going up. We've got Benderson is I'm sure during this coming year going to be working on the area between Sumter and Cocoa Plum. They also have acquired, I believe, property over in Welland Park, beach right off of Villages Boulevard. That's going to be a large commercial and retail area for us. We're looking at starting to put a plan together for how to build out the infrastructure in Activity Center 6 and 10. There's just so much. There are other medical companies that are gearing up, hospitals that are planning and working. So, as we look into 26, I think we're going to finally start to see, some of these projects move along real well on schedule. Some may be getting done. You got the high school at Welland Park is well underway. You're going to see them start to do the connecting road to Minnesota Beach out to 776, which will help, realign the traffic patterns. So once that school gets open, it won't put an undue burden onto 41 and River Road. There's a lot of things going on that have been in the works for years, even prior to my joining the commission. And And a lot of these are finally starting to take root, and we're starting to see the fruits of a lot of commissions, labors, and the hard work of staff and all our outside partners. So it is exciting. You know, the magic is going to be to continue to operate the city without raising property taxes, you know, the rates anyway, and find a way to deal with what potentially could be coming at us from the state level. You know, if we have to deal with less revenue, you know, we're gonna have to tighten our belts significantly, and that's gonna have an impact on services. So, you know, we're trying to prepare and plan and think about how we might be able to deal with these, you know, whatever the legislature might come up with. So,
You know, I'm a full-time realtor looking at this from cross-town travel, different things like that. I still make it across town in 18 minutes in our town, and that's with Price Boulevard being shut down and sometimes having to take some moves that I don't like to take. But I want to redirect real quick at Sumter and 75. Do we have any projection there on, while Price is being shut down, some lights being put up there? There has to be a huge safety factor going on there.
yeah, there's no doubt. And those, you know, that whole interchange needs to get rearranged. To tell you the truth, I just joined within the last couple of months the MPO board. You know, each of us sit on various boards and committees with the county. And so Commissioner Langdon and I swapped that one out. And so I actually need to come up to speed, and all over the next month or two, as I'm up there, I'll try to get a feel and be able to report back to the public as to what their timetable is, because that, especially there at Sumter, you know, and Toledo, both of them need doing. Both of them are on the planning boards. I just don't know the timetable on them, to be perfectly honest with you. So,
And
staff
neither one of those,
actually have a much better gauge on the timing of them than I do.
and neither one of those two interchanges are strictly on the books for Northport. It's a combination, isn't it? State.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to benefit the entire area, but you know, it's not our project.
That's where I'm going. So stay right there for a minute. Explain that.
Well, the city doesn't do it. I mean, that is a state road. I mean, it's you know, FDOT is the one doing it. You know, I believe they're all approved. I believe it's just a question of timing and putting them together. So, you know, they're coming, and they need to be done in a timely fashion. Obviously, with the hospital, you know, going to be open in a couple of years, they need to time that interchange, especially the Sumter one. So, you know, it's not worse than it already is, because there is no disputing what a disaster those two interchanges are. So.
Right, and that really does have a lot of travel implications to everybody right now. Just because we only have the two exits, but neither one are functioning at what I would consider 100%.
I would say you're right.
Yeah. So the good news is it's on the table. The bad news is it's kind of out of our hands, and we're still waiting on the powers to be in the state level to come down and give us some answers, right?
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're not projects the city does. They're not our roads. They're, you know, we've done what we need to do. Now it's a matter of, you know, continuing on with all the things we've been doing out there, and for, you know, at the appropriate time for FDOT to, you know, get them done. So they'll get done.
Chuck English. Hey, Chuck. He says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're having a blessed day. We are, I think. I know I am. I think Phil is. And I hope you are, Chuck. Any action on the exchanges are at least 5 years away.
Anybody's guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen sooner than that. I don't think they're both going to happen at the same time, but I think the pressure is going to be put on with the hospital. That almost is going to speed things up there with Sumter anyway. And that's my guess at this point.
Would certainly make sense.
It would. And bumping these things forward, we've heard talks about that in the past. That's still up to the state. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with the commissioners. I guess that's what I'm kind of clarifying through you. Commission doesn't chop down trees, and commission doesn't um, um,
No,
put lights and roads in, especially when it comes to the state highways.
that's correct. I mean, that's correct. If we could, we woulda, but
Yeah.
it's their project. And it's coming along. I mean, they're going to time it. They're going to time it just like there'll be the effort to connect Minnesota Beach Road to 776 before the high school gets open. Because once it's open, you're going to have all those buses running,
Yep.
and we need to be prepared. Same thing when the hospital opens. So I would imagine before 28 in that range, if that's the projection for the hospital opening, they'll FDOT, I'm sure will,
Yep. Debbie McDowell. Hey, Debbie. Commission budgeted money to get it done sooner than FDOT's timeline, and they would pay the city back. About 2 years out, 2 years ago, FDOT decided to do the interchange improvements. Sure would be nice if there were regular. Sorry, I had to scroll up. Regular updates on both exchanges. I agree with you, Debbie. I think we're doing that as far as trying to get information. You did say that you're going to go directly up there and start in 2026. As you get updates, would you mind jumping on, and even if it's a quick 5-minute update, whenever you find something out, we'll just do a quick update.
My pleasure.
Awesome. That'd be great. Thanks, Debbie. We've got just a lot happening at the Welland Park Northport area. I personally took a tour of the high school up there. I can only tell you it's amazing. The things that they have done there, the things that they have thought of. I remember back though, when we had the whole incubator sessions back with Peter Bartolotta back in the day. And he made a statement. It's kind of funny because it is showing through right now with the hospital and all the medical facilities coming here. He envisioned that this would be the hub for medical, and we all, as a group, we all talked about that in depth. And it's kind of funny that we talked about it, and it's actually happening at this point. And it's kind of a cool thing to sit back and watch, to see all the medical buildings arriving in Northport. Gosh, that was 20 years ago, easily for me, because I've been here 25. So I can't imagine. Debbie's been here longer. I know you've been here shorter than me, but I can't believe some of these. Even Chuck, I wonder how Chuck feels about the hospitals finally getting into Northport, because they have been needed for sure. And now that we're over 100,000, the rooftops are definitely demanding it. What's your thought on how things are developing within the medical community in Northport?
Well, I think, one, it's a long time coming, and two, I really do believe that while there will be many industries that will find Northport appealing because of, the location, the availability of labor, the opportunity with the growth that's going on here. But when it comes to the healthcare industry, I really think that Northport is going to become a medical mecca. And it'll be a little different than Sarasota, but you're going to see, I do believe over the next 5 to 10 years, you are going to see a plethora of medical and healthcare related businesses gravitating to this area. I just think they feed off a hospital like this. You've got Advent Health, you've got HCA, you've got SMH, you've got the behavioral healthcare. I mean, these are anchors. Then you got the urgent cares, and then you talk about the hundreds of medical type businesses that can come here. So when you see density grow in the area of apartments and condos and housing, there will be jobs. And that, to me, if I had to pick two things that I think, it's not easy to solve on your own as a municipality, but that have to be first and forefront in our planning, as well as keeping taxes low and working on our infrastructure. And that's creating job opportunities and retooling our labor force. With 80-90% of the working population in the city leaving the city every day, there's tremendous strain on the roads. As we know, if we could peel back 10, 15, 20% or more of those folks and get them retooled to be able to work where they live here in the city, it would be huge. It would have tremendous ripple effects throughout the city. And additionally, affordable housing. I mean, there are projects, but workforce housing is a huge need. And while people say all these apartments, how are they ever going to fill them? Probably not. In fact, hopefully not, because as long as the supply exceeds the demand, hopefully the prices of these dwellings will go down, and we'll start to see, rents that people can afford. So I really think that the next 5 to 10 years is going to yield huge benefit for us in this industry. And I think it's going to attract a lot of other commercial and retail growth. So when you take the plans for activity centers out in 6 and 10, you couple it with what's happening in Toledo Blade, the innovation corridor, and then the medical aspects of what can happen in Northport, I think we're going to be in good shape as we move out 5 and 10 years, and we see the balance between residential and commercial tax revenues shift. And that will go a long way towards mitigating cost increases for our taxpayers. Because without it, that's what we face. The cost of providing the basic services to the growing residential population of our city is challenging, and we need that commercial growth to help support us. I mean, I've been singing that tune since I got on the commission. There's just more work to do.
Certainly. So another question from Chuck English. The current events, what do you think about the state bill to abolish HOA?
Well, I mean, I suppose it would be great to have a bill that says everybody has to be nice to each other. So I kind of compare it to that. I think the chances of a bill disbanding HOAs is about as good a chance as us putting a stop to all development in this state. I don't think it's a reality. I think, like anything else, when people get frustrated because the way things aren't the way you want them to be, sometimes it seems easier to just throw the baby out with the bathwater, chuck everything out, change everything. The truth is, what we need is to fix things. Just like there's concerns over large developments like West Villages and others, just like there's concerns over HOAs, to me, the solution is to fix them, is to see the things that need fixing, and at a legislative level, fix them. There is no one agency that oversees HOAs or community districts, for that matter. You have, oversight, but not real strong oversight. There's so many things we could do to make HOAs better and more responsive to the needs of property owners so that their rights don't get trampled on. And at the same time, create that balance. HOA communities do provide things for their property owners that, people who have single family lots don't get, and we pay for them. Right. So the key is to balance them. You don't want HOA management to be so onerous and overbearing that it's uncomfortable and unhappy to live in these communities. Yet at the same time, a lot of us moved here because we don't want, broken down washing machines and dryers on the side of garages. We don't want people parking their boats and their cars on the lawns and their RVs. We don't want people doing whatever they want to do landscaping wise. So there's, people pick and choose where they want to live and how they want to live. And I think HOAs have a place, just like condominiums have their place. They just need to be, regulated reasonably And the oversight needs to be there so that there isn't abuse and so that people do have a say. And so, I'd be very surprised if you're going to see legislation passed to do away with HOAs. I think you might find some legislation passed to help tighten it up a little bit, give property owners a little more say in what goes on and regulate what HOA boards can do and how they have to disclose information and disclose their activities a little better. But beyond that, I don't see it a big issue. I see the big issue and the total focus in Tallahassee on taxes. That's going to be that's the issue.
That is going to be the issue. And now that we've had our fair share of a little bit of a downturn with travel and so forth, especially on this coast. I don't know so much on the other coast. They're pretty active over there because they didn't have the hurricane damage that we've had here. When you lose Fort Myers Beach almost in totality, and then you come up our coastline and you hit Inglewood Beach, and we're just opening a lot of that stuff back up, including some of the condos that are on the lower levels out there. Things are just different here than they have been over the years. And when you're in the rebuild process, things look a little different than when you're on the other coast, and things are just moving along like they normally did, even with an economic downturn. So taxes are definitely a key. How is the tax in Northport? How's that going to affect the citizens here? I know that we've talked a lot this year about the commercial side of things and the balancing act that we kind of have to play out. But let's leave it like it is, and let's talk about where we're at currently. And we've done 6 years in a row now without a tax increase as far as the Northport citizens are concerned.
Well, no,
go ahead. I know you're going to correct me, but go ahead.
Actually, to correct you, the city of Northport has not raised its property tax rate, its millage rate. Property taxes have gone up for a lot of people because the values of the properties have gone up, which is a county assessed thing. But nevertheless, for our citizens, for me, and for everybody else who lives in the city, we've experienced increases in our taxes because values have gone up. And it's nice that we're building some equity, but it doesn't help when you have to write that check. Yeah. So, I appreciate that. And that may be where you see the state do something. One idea, that's kicked around out there, which wouldn't be a bad one, is, if let's say it were determined that a normal, I'll just pick a number, 3% cost of living or cost of property appreciation would be acceptable. And anything beyond that, maybe it's 3%, 4%, 5%, a number is picked. Anything beyond that, then municipalities and counties would have to look at a rollback rate. So in order to sort of cap, kind of like the homestead exemptions do, so we can try to mitigate the kind of increases people are facing, because people need to plan, and it's hard when all of a sudden, not so much this past year, but the prior couple, when you're looking at 15-17% jump in a property appreciation, that translates to a pretty big tax hit. And it's pretty hard for municipalities to turn around and roll that rate back so much that it can compensate for that kind of property value increase. So what I think, it's my opinion that what municipalities and counties in this state are going to have to look at is, what can we do to cut costs in a strategic way, in a surgical way, to try not to affect public safety and or quality of life amenities, and yet at the same time, save our taxpayers money and still provide the basic services that people want and the reason people moved here. That's my concern, and I think that's a balancing act that's not going to be easy. It's going to be different for every municipality and county, and I think you add to it whatever the state may do on a legislative basis. I think we need to do this on our own. I think, we've been trying to do this, but every year we walk into the budget process with $5 to $7 million worth of baked in increases from labor contracts and benefit packages, and the average cost of product and merchandise that goes up. Our first workshops typically give us a glimpse of what increases we're facing and the new hurdle. So not only do we have to cover what we spent in the current year, but that incremental piece, that costs are going to jump, and we can't do much, if anything, about them. So where do you cut? What do you do? If you count on growth to pay for all that stuff, where are your reserves for emergencies? Where's your money for your capital improvement projects? So I would very much like us to try to hold the line on costs and expenses going into next year's budget, and find a way to tighten up. And, I think it will be a real eye opener for people when they hear us talk about the choices we're going to have to make in order to accomplish this. And I think that's the real challenge this year. And I'm hoping it'll kick off in January with some strategic planning where the five of us put our heads together and figure out where we want to be, and we give staff direction as to, what the goals are and what the floors are on spending. So.
Well, and I'm going to stay there for a second because I hope I'm going to say your name right, Brian Almer. Brian Almer says spend less. He does say you're weak, but that's okay. Brian, keep it professional. If you can't, then I'm not going to post your stuff, but at least show some respect, and I appreciate that. But the spend less theory. I don't disagree with what he's saying, but I think you just clearly said that.
Yeah, it's going to be a trade-off. The general fund, which is, the money of which comes from, the bulk of it, property tax. We're looking at public safety consuming 55 to 60% of the entire general fund. And then you look at things like communications, good governance, our natural resource efforts, our economic development. You look at the pie graph of what gets spent in all the other pillars of the general fund, and it's amazing how little amounts of money there are there. If we had to do with 20% less, there would be some dramatic cuts in services. Dramatic. And if the state were to mandate you couldn't touch public safety and you can't touch school taxes, okay, then where do you find this money? What are you going to do without? How's it going to affect our parks? Okay, how's it going to affect our newly formed natural resource department? How's it going to affect communications in an environment where people want more transparency and more inclusiveness? How's it going to affect good governance? How's it going to take the building department? Look at all the efforts and hard work we put into trying to streamline our system so it would be easier for people to work through the permitting departments. You spend tons of money building the systems right to make them work smoother and more user-friendly. All these things cost us money, us citizens money, yet if we only have enough for public safety and then infrastructure, I mean, we can't borrow money without referendums, so we're forced to do it the old-fashioned way and save up what we need. And Lord knows we have tons of capital capital projects that are challenges between our water structures and our bridges and our roads and you name it. So, you look at all that and yes, can we do it less? Yes. Can we cut this budget? Yes. Will there be consequences? Yes. And the job is going to be figuring out that right balance. It is going to be the most challenging year, and hopefully we'll come out with an end product that, you know, that finds that right balance, that keeps costs under control for all us property taxpayers, and at the same time doesn't harm the quality of life that we've grown accustomed to.
And Chuck has been, I think, is agreeing with you in your philosophy there, because Northport has not increased the taxes because of the property value increase over the years, and that stands to reason. We have been gaining in that regard. Thanks, Chuck. Brian says, if you can't budget, you're not the right man for the job.
I mean, yeah, can't argue with that one.
Yep. And I don't know that the ironic thing is, Brian, do you know that the commissioners have managers that have to hit their budgets too? So collectively, this is not just the commission sitting around saying, let's cut all this stuff. You guys send this down the chain, don't you?
Yeah, well, you know, the reality is that we, you know, legally we have to balance our budget every year. We only have so much money to work with, and you know, we have to make choices. Our population continues to grow, and for single family platted property owners, for every dollar of revenue that comes in from that residential taxpayer, more than a dollar goes out the door in providing basic services. You know, fire, police, public works. It is this, our single family platted home costs us money. The ability to raise densities with multifamily type housing and generate alternative sources of revenues are what's going to help mitigate some of this, along with cutting costs. You can't do it with just one or the other. I mean, I would love to take the approach that the present level of spending plus whatever the baked in cost of living is going into a new year. And to me, that's where the line can be drawn. And then you spend to that level only. And if revenues happen to exceed it, great, because we have capital projects and we have reserves that need addressing. And that's where that money should go. The idea isn't to say, oh, we see an increase of $5 or $10 million in revenue. Now we can spend more. That's never been the plan. That's never been how we've done it. It's just a challenge because the cost of providing services to people continue to go up. Just labor union increases and benefit increases and the average cost of increase on material equates to $5 to $7 million worth of increases to us as a city every single year. So if you take what we spent this year, you got to tack that on. And that's the challenge we look at the following year. So yeah, we've had some property tax increase valuations, which have been helpful, obviously, in generating additional revenue. We've been making a lot of an investment in time and effort to see some of the commercial development come to pass, and we're first starting to see some of it. So hopefully that will help us. And I think, you know, between the combination of all the things we've been doing and tightening our belt as tight as we can, making some decisions about what services we might be able to do without, you know, we'll make ends meet, we'll make it work. And but there's a trade-off. You cannot dispute the fact that there's going to be a trade-off between quality of services or services themselves and revenues. You just can't continue to spend.
I know you answered the question, but I want to throw it back at Brian. So, you know, you make general statements and they're easy to hide behind, but and I don't mean hide behind them, but it's easy to make the comments about the budget. where is it that you would see Northport cutting budget that you would be okay with? I'm assuming that you live in Northport, so I'm kind of wondering what is it that you want to see cut from the budget that the citizenry would be okay with, because to me we're 6 years in to not raising taxes on the millage rate. There's been clashes over that. Even micro increases is better than zero increases, because at some point things counterbalance themselves. So in this conversation, I'm concerned because everybody's talking about their property value increase and that money coming in. Well, we're going to have the reverse happen for a little while right now, because we've been seeing property values fall. So, there's not going to be a heavy correction, but there is going to be some correction there. So you've got millage rate increases zero, property values increasing, but now stabilizing or dropping. So it's not going to be this increase. Now, the one thing I think we have in Northport, or maybe you can address this, is we're still growing. We're still building houses. We're still doing things. That does help us, correct?
Sure. I mean, interestingly enough, if I'm correct, last year, uh, if you separated out West Village's property value increase, the rest of Northport saw a property value decrease. What netted the city in its entirety to I want to say it was about an 8.5% increase, was the property value increases in the Welland Park area as new products keep coming on board, and the values here in this district keep, even though the market's softer, it's still pretty healthy right here, and property values are pretty still strong in the Welland Park area. So I think that counterbalanced some. But yeah, that is what we're looking at. And if you add, while I don't think it'll hit this next fiscal year, if the legislature decides it's going to increase homestead exemptions, it's going to find some ways to cut out part or all of property tax, you'll see that impact come in 27. And boy, oh boy, we all better be ready for it, because it's not going to be a question of where we're going to cut. I mean, it's not going to be a question of if we cut, it's going to be a question of trying to work with the available revenues that are going to be coming in. And they're going to be, if there's a significant legislative act that reduces or does away with a portion or all of property tax, I don't know how you replace all that. I just don't know how that happens. I think then there's some dramatic changes that are going to occur in the way, places get governed. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see. You know, Anybody who doesn't think that we don't sharpen that pencil is just wrong. Every department, if people watch that budget process, it's a half a year in the making, putting a budget together, and the numbers are really crunched, and every department squeezes where it can. There's an awful lot of cutting that takes place before the first pass on the budget even gets to us. And then once it does, we squeeze where we can. Every year we've been up against what probably should have been an incremental increase in property tax rate. But our commission just felt that that was unacceptable, that on top of all the other increases taxpayers are facing, we were not going to raise our property tax rate, and we didn't. So we found ways to balance the budget around it. And that's what we'll continue to do. Whatever it takes, we will do it. We have to balance that budget. We have to work with the money we have available. And I'm committed to not raising that property tax rate anytime. As long as I'm sitting on that dais, I'm not going to I'm not voting to raise the property tax rate. We got to find other ways to make the budget work and make ends meet. And if that means cutting services, then that's the direction we need to go. If we have to be creative in how we do our grant funding and how we fund our capital projects, so be it. If it takes a little longer to do some of them, then it will. But I'm committed to not raising taxes, and I'm committed to getting the city's commercial balance or growth in line so that it can help take some of the pressure off, because that's where the money's going to exist to do a lot of the things we need doing. But, we've set the groundwork for it, and it's going to just take time and effort, and we're continuing in that vein. In the meantime, we're going to have to hold the line everywhere else. That's
So
all.
Debbie McDowell says, interesting, where would the average citizen find that data separating property value from Northport Welland Park, by the way, and Legacy Northport?
I would start with the county assessor's office.
Okay. So we've got about 17 viewers, and we've got a lot of people watching. I want to give a shout out to Myra Eagle and Chuck English, Jeremy Ansel for liking. And please like and share this. The more that we can do that, the more information gets out to the public and to the consumer, and the more that they can join us once a month to have the town hall meetings. I guess they're technically town hall meetings that we're holding, where the Q&As are coming in from the citizens themselves, which has been fantastic. But you've got this commitment towards taxes. Do the fellow commissioners feel the same way?
Well, I would like to hope so. I think all five of us are fiscally conservative, and we've shown that. We're all concerned about, managing the growth and continuing to provide to existing citizens and new folks that move here, to providing the quality of life that makes Northport attractive. And we got to do it in as fiscally a responsible way as we can. And I appreciate that the average citizen doesn't understand necessarily some of the enormous financial challenges in providing the basic services. And there's always room to improve. There's always room to cut costs. There's always room to tighten our belts. All of it comes with a cost. There's trade-offs. We worked hard. You think of, it was not even 4 years ago, we didn't even have a natural resource division. We got a city that's 100,000 people, 104 acres. And when I was running for office, people said, we really need this. We have no balance. We have who's looking out for our gopher tortoises? Who's looking out for the scrub jays? Who's looking out for the trees? I mean, we have a natural resource department. A couple of $1 million of our city's resources go to run that department. We have $2.5 million in this coming year's budget for the acquisition of environmentally sensitive properties. We have, I believe it was close to $1 million for tree planting. I mean, we're trying to address what a section of our population is concerned about, and that costs us all money. At the same time, people were embarrassed by the condition of Mineral Springs. That project's underway. That will be cleaned up. That will become a real attraction, something we can be proud of. People wanted a conservation easement. We're going to put a conservation easement on that property and forego any high impact development that might generate revenues. We'll find it somewhere else. People want, there's a lot of things we all want, but it costs us money. It costs us time to do. And yet it all goes to creating a quality of life for us here in the city. People can't imagine running our community centers probably costs us $500,000 plus a year for each one of them, just to operate them. What about all the ball fields, all the things we keep up? People just, it's easy to complain when something looks like it isn't properly maintained or replaced or improved, or when something falls short. And yet when it comes to writing a check for it, none of us really want to pay for it. And so, finding that sweet spot is our challenge, and we're up for it. That's what we do every single day. And we know that at the end of the day, most of the decisions are going to end resulting with some people not liking every decision we make. Some people like some decisions, but we continue to make the best decisions for the best interests of the city as a whole. And that's what we do.
So Chuck English says, "Tell me if I'm wrong. Uh, do not uh, do not special districts rely on landowner uh, vote rather than resident vote?"
It depends on the how far mature they are. Like, yes, the answer to your question is that until control turns from the landowners or the developer, until it transfers control of those boards to property owners, yeah, there is a period of time. In HOAs, control doesn't turn until it's 90%. In a special district, I'll use West Villages as an example. In the West Villages district, sometime before, probably in and around when 50%, 60% is built out, you're probably going to see a transition of the third, the second and the third spots on that board to property owner. But, it's in the development stages of these special districts, there's an enormous capital requirement. Look at the infrastructure alone. Could Northport have ever supported West Villages on its own if it had to have invested in the infrastructure to build out this area? Never would have happened. But developers owned the land. Developers could lay out the hundreds of millions of dollars that was required. There is alone $30 million more of developer money that just went into the water, the irrigation water systems in the district that have yet to be distributed and spread across the property owners. So there's some value in developer control because they have the money, they have the expertise to be able to manage these special districts until such time as there's a broad enough base of residential property owners to carry on. And there's things that can be done to make sure special districts are run properly. Lately there's been a spotlight, so to speak, no pun intended, on special districting. And there are good ones and there are bad ones, just like there are good and bad in every industry and every business everywhere. Good people, bad people, good businesses, bad people, good ideas, bad ideas. Special districts are a tool. They were created so that developers could raise cheap money, using cheap money, raise the money to develop infrastructure and then amortize the cost of that over 30 years so that the property owners could pay them in a tier of tax called a CDD, a non-ad valorem. In a lot of other places, property or developers will build the cost of infrastructure into the price of their houses. Let's face it, we live in a capitalist system, so businesses are going to make as much money as they can. We're a property rights state. So if you got a developer that owns large pieces of land, large acreage, and they're going to develop a project like West Villages, they're going to make as much money as they can make. But at the same time, they want a house price point that makes sense, that they can sell. And so it's a question of, in the end, who pays? Who pays for everything? It's always the consumer that pays. So whether we pay for the cost of infrastructure in a special district in the cost of our house, or whether we pay for it in a CDD tax bill that comes in once a year, no matter how you cut it, we're paying for it. And in addition, while we live in special districts, I live here in West Villages in a special district, I not only pay my slice of the infrastructure for my district here, but I also pay my fair share of the rest of Northport. And that's just how it works. Conversely, legacy Northport taxpayers don't have to pay for our infrastructure, which is a good thing. But the developer, by being able to go out and issue bonds through a CD and create through a special district, borrow that money at significantly less than they would if they borrowed it in connection with building houses and layering that cost into the cost of the house. That was the why. That was part of the reason why CDDs were created to begin with. It was another way to finance infrastructure. And then for property owners that live in a house 5, 7 years, when they move, the next homeowner picks up the ball on that infrastructure because they're going to benefit from it going forward. And it's not built into the cost of the house that that former property owner is selling. So there's some value in this. But when it comes to doing it properly, making sure that developers don't overburden districts with debt. In West Villages, it's a big development, yet there has been no new bond issuances in the West Villages Improvement District in any community that came about after the first property owner acquired their property, which means that we didn't have a group of property owners here that bought thinking that their non-ad valorem CDD taxes would be one thing, only to find that the developer, while still in control of that district, added tens of millions of dollars of debt. That isn't being done here. They've not done that at all, Mattamy. So whatever we knew coming in, if we did our proper due diligence, we knew coming in the door what our CDDs were going to be. The variable to that number is CDD payments each year consist of two things. One is the payment off the bonds and the interest for the infrastructure. The other is the operations and maintenance. And operations and maintenance of a district do tend to go up over year after year. So there is always some incremental increase in CDDs, but it's not on the original investment in the infrastructure. So to me, that's a responsible developer because they're not screwing us property owners. They're not, once I'm a owner and I don't have any say and control over that district, they're not coming in and overburdening me with debt. They continue to make investments as a developer to expand this area, to bring new amenities. Downtown Welland Park is owned by Mattamy. Everything you see that goes on in downtown Welland Park is being, other than their individual businesses that are operating, are being paid for by Mattamy. And, all at some point, the district will assume, I'm sure, the operations of downtown. But, like anything, good commissioners, bad commissioners, good accountants, bad accountants, good lawyers, bad lawyers, good developers, bad developers. You got to look at who you're doing business with. You got to look at who's doing what, and then you evaluate things. So, my feeling is, special districts, they got their challenges. There are some in our city of Northport that are in communities that are older and are now, while still paying off their old bonds, are starting to face having the challenges of resurfacing roads and fixing curbs and fixing lighting. So, now they're looking at some additional capital improvement challenges as communities in their own CDDs, in their own community development organizations. And those are challenges for them. So, they're going to have to figure out how to do it. And the property owners who live there, it's a burden that they bear. So
Chuck English, you just made a comment that I am concerned about, similar to the one you made from the commission, that Legacy Northport is a burden to the city. I'm not sure I heard that come out of your mouth, but
no, not at all. No, I think what Chuck might be referring to is my comment about that maybe a single family platted property generates less revenue in taxes than it costs to supply basic services. And for a quarter acre single lot, that is correct. But, as a whole, I certainly didn't say that. And that certainly is not the case. I don't know how anybody can say that.
Hopefully that answered your question, Chuck. Let's see. One more. He posted that twice. One more question. Let's see. Now he's posted it 3 times. So obviously Chuck is stuck on repeating the same question. I need you to apologize if I was wrong. I need you to apologize if I was wrong, sir. I must have misheard your comment. With respect. That's all right. Awesome, Chuck. Thank you. So Chuck just apologized if he misheard.
Oh yeah, he didn't need to apologize. No, just didn't. I said what I said, but no, Legacy Northport is
That's the
not
beauty in this.
in our city. How could you say
I
that?
love the fact that he was able to adjust that. And Chuck, great follow up. Apology was not necessarily, but very well accepted. That's the beauty in this conversation, is that everybody has their right to digest it and comment, and whether it is found to be true or not, at least everybody's kind of on the same playing field now. We've got no time left. You've stuck around for a little over the time allotted, but I want to wish you and your wife a Merry Christmas. Myra said that, Myra Eagle. I need to post that up there. Thank you, Myra, for saying Merry Christmas, Northport. Diane Carr, my neighbor, love you. She runs her own little business right here in Northport. Check her out. Valerie, I love you, and you're the best part of the guy who's on the screen right now. And everybody else who participated today, I want to say thank you for participating. And if I don't get to talk to you between now and then, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to y'all. And as we approach 2026, let's start out with a bang. But Phil, thanks for taking the today.
Thanks for everybody who signed on and listened in. And I wish you all a happy and a healthy Christmas and New Year's. And I hope that everybody kind of looks at our city and looks at the things that we have, the challenges we're facing and the opportunities we're facing, and looks at 26 with an optimistic eye. It's time to see some of the good stuff that goes on in our city, some of the positivity, instead of dwelling on the negative. And not that everybody does that. There isn't anybody that does that all the time. I think that we are a great city. And I've said it before publicly, I say it privately. We are a city on the map, a city growing, a place people want to come and live. And, are we perfect? No. Do we have challenges? Yeah. Do we make mistakes from time to time? Yeah. Do we try to fix them? Yeah. You have 5 elected officials who are very different from each other, who are all dedicated to doing what's best for our city of Northport. We all want it to be a great city, a greater city than it already is. We want to be able to do it in the most cost-effective way, be the best stewards of your tax dollars. We try to do so many good things, and when we don't, and when we mess up, or when there's things that aren't done that need doing, we try to get at it. And that's our focus, and it will be going forward. And we hope that everybody supports and embraces that, because when we're all pulling together in the same direction, it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier for everybody to get things done. When we fight among ourselves, when we undermine each other, when we look to hurt each other, when we run our own personal agendas, it is to the detriment of our great city. So with that, thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful new year, and look forward to seeing you all on the other side.
All right. Thank you. Have a blessed day. And if I don't get to see you and your wife, happy holiday.
Thanks.
And happy holidays to everybody else.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye now.